Hey everybody, how you doing? It's your man James. I love that intro. Hi everybody, welcome. How you doing? Welcome to the show. It's another one of my classic live streams here of a sequential thinking, where I take a topic and I talk about it. You guys, if you only knew how lucky you were that this stream is even happening today, the technical difficulties. But yeah, here we are. We got the show going. I'm glad you could join me today. We already got someone in the chat here. Let's check it out. We got that's my good friend Blackjack. Good friend. Hey, Blackjack, how you doing, my friend? Hail, glad you could make it. Glad you're here. And yeah. So hope you guys are all doing well today, and everything's going well for you. Like I said, I was having some technical difficulties here just before the show. Good Lord, I wasn't sure I was even going to be able to make it. So, but here I am, and here you are, and so let's get on with it. And today, the topic we're going to be talking about is how it seems the leadership in the mainstream comic book industry seem to be looking to cash out before everything falls completely apart, as they seem to have no interest in actually creating great works anymore. They're just trying basically to burn out the clock until they can retire or until they can grab some money somewhere, and then off they'll go, and they won't care what happens after this, and what that really means for the industry and all the people connected to it in the future. And it's something I think needs to be talked about, because as I've done with many of these, you've seen me talk on many times on the problems in the industry, on things they're doing wrong, on some of the reasons why they're doing those things. And this one to me seems like the most cynical of them all, to just try to cash out before the very end, be the guy who gets the last seat in the lifeboat before the Titanic sinks. And, some of the stuff they're doing just seems so ridiculous. But we're going to get into all that today, but I want to thank you all for joining me today, and I want to just do that again, and also to say that if you like what you hear here, make sure to drop a like on it to help the algorithm. We all appreciate that here, and also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed, because I'm doing a lot of more great content here, and so you don't want to miss out on any of that. So make sure you subscribe and you don't miss any of this stuff that I'm doing. So after that out of the way, with all that, let's get right on into it. And like I said, what I'm seeing is a lot of this is they just don't seem to care anymore, the leadership. They don't care what's going on. They don't care about creating great works. They don't care about saving their companies. They're just burning time. Just let it last long enough until I can retire and get my golden parachute. And that seems to be where they're headed with this. And to me, that doesn't take us any place good. So we're going to start this off here with where this all began, which is the first thing I saw that I took note of when all this began. And so we'll let's see, we'll get me off the screen here, because we don't need to see my ugly mug. Much better look at a great piece of Spider-Man art by the great Mike Harris than to look at me. Trust me, of the two, that's definitely the one you want to look at more. But yeah, this is what I saw that really got me in my jogging to do this entire stream, actually. So. And here we are. It's from the Popverse, right here. And it tells you Marvel's official timeline of its canon comic universe is maybe not as important as fans might think, says top editor. Marvel executive editor and dickhead moron Tom Brevoort tells fans who keep worrying about the timeline it's fiction, as if somehow that means that anybody who has a problem with what they're doing or how they're doing it is somehow just being superfluous. They're being frivolous. Who cares what you think? It's a fiction. But fiction, there has to be something that matters in fiction too. You have to have, a standard when you're doing things. Even in fiction, it has to make sense. And that's what, you're going to see here, how they really don't care. How old is Peter Parker? When did the X-Men form? Did Civil War happen under the Bush administration? These are all questions that have been asked by regular Marvel readers trying to reconcile their favorite mid-30s superheroes with 60-plus years of comic history. Recently, one of Marvel's top editors offered some advice for folks trying to keep a timeline in their heads. Stop trying. And there you are, right there. Oh, got more from Blackjack here. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Again, I've shown before many of his tweets and things he said. I mean, one, he even attacked his own son. I mean, What do you have to say about that? About a man who's a father who attacks his own son? I mean, that's just pathetic. But yeah, there is. Stop trying. Stop trying to understand this. Stop trying to make it make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. It's fiction. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. See, this is what they want you to go with, because that gets them off the hook now. Now, anything they do, or no matter how stupid it is, how much it goes against the canon, the history, the origins of the character, everything you know, doesn't matter, because it's all fiction. And here it is. The question came up in the most recent Substack post by Marvel's Tom Brevoort. Brevoort, who is currently heading up the X-Men relaunch, has been contending with the comic industry's sliding timeline for longer than some fans have been alive to read about it, and offered a helpful breakdown to one concerned fan named Joel Zorba. A few years ago, you talked about these characters' ages. So what would be the current age of the characters, considering there's at least 6 or 7 generations of New Mutants nowadays? I think it's trying to nail this stuff down that is almost always a mistake, answered Brevoort honestly, and one that just causes arguments among the fan base. So I think it's to be avoided. So there it is right there. Arguments. The fan base has always had arguments. Who's stronger, the Hulk or Thor? Who's the better fighter, Captain America or Batman? They've always had these discussions. That's been a part of this since time immemorial, since almost the beginning. Who's the best? Who's the best hero? Who's the worst villain? It's all in there. So again, but it shows you they are totally disconnected from everything. They're disconnected from the readers. They're disconnected from their fellow employees. They're disconnected from the creations. They're disconnected from everything. And this is a problem. To be fair, causing arguments among the fan base is pretty much a given for any comic book decision, but we hear what you're saying, Tom. And to be fair, the editor did try to set these things straightish regarding some ages and rough timeline, claiming that the modern MCU started around 15 years ago from whenever the reader is coming in, give or take. So I just thought he said it didn't matter. So now why are you trying to lay down? Well, this is where the sliding rule. Well, then why are you worried about it, fat boy? What are you worried about, Tommy Tom? What are you worried about it for? You just said it doesn't matter. It's just fiction. Just stop worrying about it. It's to be avoided. That is to say, he continues, the Fantastic Four's origin has always happened about 15 years ago, regardless of what year it happened to be. Of the X-Men, Magneto is by far the oldest, almost double the age of anybody else, because his origin has been inextricably linked to a historical event, the concentration camps of World War II. With that out of the way, Brevoort dives into the real confusion behind character ages and really one of the biggest issues in modern superhero comic book storytelling. But what you're really asking, Brevoort concludes, is how can we possibly fit so many stories into such a limited space? And the answer is it's fiction. So we can do whatever the hell we like, provided that the readership goes along with it. But that's just the point. The readership doesn't go along with it. That's your problem. It's been the problem for years. For years, they've said this. They've told you, you're trashing the icons. You're ruining the stories. You're ruining the history. You're ruining the lore. You're ruining the canon. And all the time you've been told, shut up, Nazis and bigots. We don't want your money. Shut up. We don't care what you think. And now it's, we can do whatever we want, so long as the readership's okay with it. When the hell did that ever happen? When have you shown that in the last 15 years? You've given a tinker's damn about anything the readers think. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Blackjack summed it up very nicely right here. Yes. If there's no reason, if none of it matters, then what's it matter to even buy the books? And of course, that's the point. Nobody is. That's why their numbers suck. That's why they don't want to tell you what the numbers are, because they know they're bad because of this very mentality, the mentality that they're espousing. But there it is. I mean, he's trying to tell you and make it seem as if, well, he really cares about this stuff, but not really, because it's not really important. This is all superfluous and frivolous. Who cares? Just don't worry about it. Just sit back and read what we give you, and just sit back and enjoy the slop we throw in your trough, and just shut up. We don't need to hear about how this breaks canon from 30 or 40 years ago. We don't have to hear how this is destroying a character. We don't care. None of this matters. It doesn't matter to us for sure. This is it. That we're seeing now that the mask is fully coming off. These people don't care, and I don't think they have ever cared about these characters or the lore or the readers or even the business side of it, which we're going to get into a little bit here in a minute. But it's not just the timeline that Tommy Boy doesn't seem to give a damn about. Here's another story right here. Just happened. Cable, step aside. How Marvel chose its new X-Men according to the top editor who helped make the decisions. The From the Ashes editor speaks to which characters got sidelined for the relaunch and why. Oh, well, that's interesting. Here it is. They were going to reboot everything, and yet they're not going to use everybody? How does that work exactly? Writing in his weekly Substack, Marvel executive editor Tom Brevoort has been pulling this curtain back on the House of Ideas. I barely could even get through that with a straight face. Marvel, the House of Ideas. Yeah, right. Editorial process with some regularity. In the most recent edition, Tom Brevoort approached the topic of the character selection after a fan wrote in inquiring about their own favorite. Does Rasputin the Fourth appear in this new phase of the X-Men, or was she shelved? And then, it goes about who this character is, as if we cared, some recent character that probably nobody outside of like this guy and like 3 other people care about. And then goes, one of my first decrees of all my creative teams as we started things up right before was I wanted everything to take place in the here and now, as opposed to what? Going into the future or going into the past? I mean, well, if you're trying to, bring the X-Men back into the real world from their Krakoan age bullshit, then yeah, it would have to be in the here and now, wouldn't it? How stupid. And I wanted it to be digestible for ordinary people who hadn't been following the books for a couple of years. Basically, so if you're completely ignorant to everything that we've done for the last decade, this is why we're doing it this way. So that meant momentarily sidelining any characters who came from the future or from an alternate timeline or any of that stuff. Now, keep in mind what this is. Keep in mind what he says right here with this. Sidelining any characters who came from the future or from an alternate timeline or any of that other stuff. He continues, I wanted a clean entry point, and there was already a ton of baggage from Krakoa that needed to be covered without trying to do alternate future origins or a chimera made from the DNA of 4 other mutants. So there you go. So it's all about trying to make it easily accessible, easily definable, and just streamlined so that anybody who, if you haven't read an X-Men book in 10 years, you can step on in here. Pardon me. You can step on in here, and you'll be good to go. All right, that's cool. That's fine. But as we find out, well, what he said wasn't actually true. If you kept on the X-Men relaunch announcement, you'll see how they all follow Brevoort's philosophy. The characters on the covers of the upcoming X books are folks like Cyclops, Jubilee, Emma Frost, and Wolverine, mutants that even the most casual of readers would recognize. Even relatively popular characters such as Cable and Bishop were sidelined for this reason. Oh, because they're from the future and they are connected to this possibilities of things to come, and so we didn't want any of that. Okay, remember that's what he said. Any characters, remember that. Any characters. Of course, every rule comes with its exceptions. There was one character to whom Marvel gave a pass despite their complex history. Quote, I permitted Rachel Summers to be part of X-Force, Brevoort admits, because she was attached to Betsy Braddock. She's also a long-established character and one I think you can get into without even needing to immediately mention growing up during Days of Future Past and was a mutant hunting slave hound. So right there, he's breaking his own rule. His rule was none of these characters with a complex history who were from the future or the past or timelines and all that. We're streamlining it down to make it easy and digestible for anybody who hasn't read a book for a long time to just come right on in. Fresh starting point. Except, of course, for this one. And why is that? Well, if you knew anything about what's been going on in the last 10 years, you'd understand, oh, Rachel Summers, well, now she's a lesbian with Betsy Braddock. Yeah, Betsy Braddock, the former Psylocke, who back in the 90s was eyeing up Cyclops. Yeah, that Betsy Braddock. She is now a lesbian, and so is Rachel Summers. And that is why, well, because we got to have the lesbos in the book. We can't not have the lesbos. Oh, we'll sideline Cable, we'll sideline Bishop, despite that they're way more popular than Betsy Braddock or Rachel Summers ever will be. That doesn't matter that they're popular. It doesn't matter that people like those characters. It doesn't matter that that's what the readers want. They don't check the boxes. And since I have my rule now, well, they're out. But I'll make exceptions for my rule with the lesbo. Even when they're saying they're trying to streamline stuff, they still can't help but inject the agenda. And it just shows you they don't care. They don't care about continuity. They don't care about anything except their agendas and cashing out in the end. You know, Bavort doesn't. If you look at the lineup he had for the new Out of the Ashes X-Men stories, the people he has working on these books, it's the equivalent of shifting the deck chairs on the fucking Titanic. The same writers who screwed up Avengers, they all get to come over and they get to screw up the X-Men. That's it. There's not any writers there who actually care about the characters, who are actually decent writers, who know how to tell a great story. It's all just more agenda-driven bullshit, and that's all it's gonna be. And this right here shows you that it is. Nothing has changed, despite Revorp saying, "Well, we're going to bring in all these creators, and we're going to streamline it, and we're going to make it digestible for anybody who's never read an X-Men book." It's all a bunch of lies. All a bunch of lies. And, you know, he isn't the only one. You know, because here we go. Marvel's comic book boss is calling for a reset of his company and the entire comics system. We as a group need to step back and accept that the world we are operating in is very different from the one before February 2020, says Marvel publisher Dan Buckley. My fucking God, they're still crying about the goddamn pandemic of 4 years ago. They're still hiding behind the pandemic for why everything is all screwy. Do you need any more proof of how these people have no concept of what they're doing? If Cable and Bishop were a couple, then they can be back. Yes, that would be the only way they'll bring them back. I'm sure. Don't give them any more ideas, Blackjack. They don't need any more bad ideas. They don't need any more help with that. But here it is. They're still blaming the pandemic for why things are so bad. It's not because we've been churning out shitty work for over a decade. It's not because we drove off our reader base for one that didn't show up. It's not because, you know, we've destroyed our characters and their legacy and their iconic status by injecting modern day politics that don't belong in them. No. That has nothing to do. It's all just because of the pandemic. That's all. We're still dealing with the pandemic. These past few years have been rough for all of us, and also for the comics industry. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated and accelerated key issues that get the comics you love from the heads and hands of your favorite comic creators and into the hands and heads of you and those like you. Recently, at a closed door B2B conference for comic publishers and comic stores, Marvel Comics president Dan Buckley spoke about the recent past and the comics business and optimistically about their place in the comics business. Most recently, we have all been challenged by the pandemic, supply chain madness, inflation, and significant shift in distribution landscape, Buckley said in the 2024 Comics Pro Meetings keynote speech. I'll admit that this list of events is by no means complete, but the list most certainly shows that it's been quite a ride. I also want to make clear that while the current challenges and changes are significant, I have faith in our ability to move forward. He continued, it would be unwise and presumptuous for me to say that we at Marvel can address every challenge in this industry. But we do recognize that we have a leadership role and that our decisions can have an outsized impact on everybody in this room. 2024, he went on, is a good time to reset for both Marvel and the direct market. So now they're talking to just reset everything, because they know they've screwed it up all so badly. There's no way they can just kind of move forward with it because it's so bad. I mean, that's what this is. It's actually acquiescing to us, to what we have said. You know, again, we've said this kind of stuff to them for years. You know, you've screwed things up so much. The only way to fix it is to just tear it all down and build it up from scratch. And now he's talking about this. So again, once again, we were right. We were right. The head of Marvel Comics saying the company and the entire ecosystem of comics publishers and stores that make up the direct market needs a reset is seismic and a judgment of the past, but also a forecast for a hopeful future. Yes, how hopeful when you have idiots like Tom Brevoort going around telling people that the canon and the lore and the history doesn't matter. It's just something to be avoided. It's just something that gets the fan base to argue. It doesn't really matter. Stop worrying about it. Yes, that's certainly a wait for a hopeful future. What kind of reset is Buckley, who's been Marvel's publisher for 19 years and started with the company way back in 1990, imagining? Its core argument is that the pandemic led to the comic industry into a short-sighted survival mindset, something we can all relate to. But now the comic industry needs to refocus and plot a formidable way forward. What's short-sighted survival mindset? What's he talking about? I mean, they've been doing short-term survival mindset probably even since the 90s with gimmick covers. Remember those? Everywhere, every other issue was a gimmick cover. So I mean, the short-sighted mindset has been something that's been comics as long as Buckley has been. He said it back in 1980. Yeah, he's probably been since then. I mean, so hey, is he admitting he's the one responsible for the short-sightedness at Marvel? Is that what he's saying? I stopped buying new Marvel and DC books 19 years ago because of quality. That was long before the pandemic. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And yeah, I stopped buying. During the pandemic, I stopped buying them. But actually, I hadn't bought a new Marvel book since 2009, and that was well before the pandemic, a decade before. So yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. How it's the pandemic's fault. But again, this is what they do. They're just looking for scapegoats to say that this is what did it. It had nothing to do with what we were doing. It's not because of how we were operating business or how we were doing things. That has nothing to do with it. How we treated our customers, how we treated the readers, how we treated the retailers. None of that matters. No. It's just, these economic forces due to the pandemic. We as a group need to step back and accept that the world we are operating in is very different than the one before February 2020. We have been moving so fast figuring out how to survive that we have not slowed down enough to review the survival process, just what has been created. We're in a new environment that is a mix of the familiar and the unknown. This led us to say that we need to get back to the basics. Yes, back to the basics, like Tom Brevoort's talking, where we're just not going to use any of these certain characters because they're too complex and convoluted with their back histories and stories. Oh, except for the lesbians. We make sure to put the lesbians in, but all the rest of them. That's the back to the basics approach that he wants to take. The back to the basics approach of, Dan Slott and all saying, that you can't destroy these characters, whatever you do to them, because, even if we do a story that like irrevocably changes who and what they are, well, we could just hand wave that away down the line because, none of this matters. That's the back to basics approach he's talking about. Among the back to basics are some key areas, including pricing. We know that pricing is an area where we need to adjust to fit your needs, Buckley told retailers, promising a core price point of $3.99 for the majority of Marvel's single-issue comics moving forward and restoring the excitement in Marvel's comic book output. Now, again, I think I spoke on this in one of my previous sequential thinking pieces. Yeah, it's $3.99 unless it's like a special issue or a double-sized issue or an anniversary issue or an issue of importance so he had all these little cravats marked out. So basically it's like, so it's like every other book's going to be more than $3.99. So yeah, so basically what they're doing now, then nothing really changed. Everything's $3.99 except for all these different variant books and that's all this other stuff that we're doing. That's all these anniversaries and special editions and double-sized conclusions to storylines and blah 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 blah. So nothing changes. So he said, we're promising a price point, but we're not really going to abide by it because we're going to make a whole lot of books of that exception to that, so we can keep charging you more money. And so nothing changes. Nothing changes. We need to convey the fun that Stan and so many other creators and editors in this industry since have projected because it's infectious. Buckley promised, mentioning that Marvel will refocus its efforts on stories that matter to the larger Marvel universe and readers alike. As part of that new focus, the publisher has reestablished its editorial summits to ensure that creators and editors can help get on the same page and strengthen upcoming storylines. So on top of this, now they're admitting that for years now, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand was doing and didn't really care. That's what that says. We've all said many times in all this for like the last several years, where the hell are the editors with this stuff? Why are the writers and artists doing these things that are so antithetical to the characters, so antithetical to what the fan base and the reader base wants? Where are the editors to stop this stuff? Where are them to put on the brakes and say, whoa, you can't do that? And now here he admits, we're going to reestablish editorial summit meetings between the creators and the editors. which hasn't been going on since probably even before the pandemic. So, there it is. They don't care. And again, this is all just words from, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Except, do you think they really are? Do you think these summit meetings are going to change anything? Do you think there's going to be, well, they're going to create some great stories like they used to, like DC when they had the bat summit and they created Bane and Nightfall and all that stuff? That's not going to happen. Oh, they're going to keep the price at $3.99. Well, except for those rare exceptions, which we're going to make the exception in every other issue. This is what they're doing. They don't care. They're going to keep doubling and tripling down on what they've been doing, hiding it behind a veil of, well, we're going to try to refocus and readjust to the new market. And it's all going to be the same old bullshit. That's not enough for Buckley, however. He's also looking to make improvements in how the comics are sold to readers and to retailers and readers alike. Our promotions are focused on where the bulk of our comics are placed, the direct market. Buckley told the comic store retailer audience that makes up the bulk of his direct market. The marketing and the sales terms have reestablished closer ties to the editorial and creative teams to ensure that we're pulling proper PR and digital marketing levers that we're, quite frankly, not coordinated as well as they could have been over the past couple of years. We're also working much more closely with Marvel Studios to drum up excitement for comics relating to major studio events. So basically to say, we're going to try to maybe coincide the comics with the movies more. Which, why weren't you doing that before when you had phases 1 through 3 of the MCU? I mean, to me, that would have been the time to do it. The characters were never more popular. The movies were making bucks. That would have been the time to do all this. Now you want to do it now after you had phases 4 and 5 that have basically destroyed any of the goodness that the MCU had and is now basically a dead brand? Now you want to do it? Now, might as well not even bother now. You've already, that train has sailed. And as we've previously written about, Buckley and Marvel are working with other comic publishers and Comics Pro to find out more about the overall health of the comics market as well. So they have no idea what's going on in the comic market. Marvel is an industry leader, and we want to take the fore of what's happening and be the leader that we know we should be. Oh, but we don't have any idea what's happening in the comic market right now. So we're just ignorant to everything. A little over a year ago, we realized that we were unsure of where we actually were from an industry and company perspective. Yes, we know our sales numbers, but we needed context to actually set a meaningful course forward. Working with a team here at Comics Pro and others, we've been committing to finding better ways for all of us to continue improving and standardizing the access to data again. These are ongoing conversations that will take some time, but I'm confident that as a group, we will be able to pull together data, and we need that data we need from the short and long term to help make the right impact for everyone in this room, meaning the retailers, which is all a bunch of bullshit. It's just a bunch of double talk telling them, yeah, we're going to try to give you the numbers again because, we know we've been hiding them for a while, and, you guys don't really know what we're selling, and, we don't really know what you're selling, and nobody knows what anyone else is selling, and so, we don't really know what's selling and what isn't. So we're going to try to work it. We're going to have discussions about trying to get something together and make that data available. Yeah, but we all know why we haven't had that data for a while. And it has nothing to do with, it's been disorganized. I mean, which I'm sure it has been, but that's not the reason why. The reason why is they want to hide those numbers. They've been hiding those numbers for years now. Why? Because they're not good. And you notice, he said in here, these are ongoing conversations that will take some time. Translation, yeah, you're not going to get that data anytime soon. So then what the hell are you talking about, Dan? What are you even telling them? We're gonna work together. I'm confident as a group we can pull together the data. Well, but then if you can pull it together, if you're so confident, well, what's all these conversations for that are going to take all this time? Everybody knows what their own numbers are, right? DC knows theirs, and Dark Horse knows theirs, and IDW knows theirs. Just tell them, give up the numbers. Here, we're going to create this organization here, the Comic Data Organization, and everybody submits their numbers. And then they can put that information out to the public. Real simple. There you go. I just solved the problem right there. But they won't do that because they know the truth. The truth of the matter is, and if they did that, it would show that, once again, we were right. We told them. We said, your sales are going to suck. It's doing all the stuff you've done. It's all going to hurt you in the end. It's going to hurt your bottom line. You're going to lose sales. And if the numbers got out and people saw what they really were, oh my God, could you imagine the tears? Don't forget when they had these summit meetings before, there were store owners who said that he couldn't sell this crap. He was laughed at. Yes, I do. That wasn't. I don't think that was a summit. That was at a convention where they had like a side room meeting of some kind. Where retailers spoke. But yeah, I do remember that the guy was complaining that I can't sell this garbage, and he was mocked for that by the companies. They told him that. Oh, so what I'm hearing is you don't like diversity. That's what they said they heard from him saying, I can't sell this garbage. Is, oh, you're saying you don't like women and diversity. And they mocked him for it. Yes, they did. I do remember that, Blackjack. Yes. But see, they don't think we remember that. They think we have short memories. They think we don't remember things. And, oh, you guys aren't paying attention to any of this. So to all the retailers, if there's any retailers out there who are listening to this right now or who will listen to it in the future, this is what they do. They promise you the moon, and then they give you bupkis. This is all a guy who is just treading water. He's treading water until he can retire. You saw him say he's been here since 1990. So he's got to be nearing the age where you retire. That's all he's doing. He's just trying to tread the water until he retires, gets his golden parachute, and then it's like, up yours, comic industry. Who cares about you anymore? I'm out of here. I'm riding off into the sunset with my ditty bag of gold. Again, all of this stuff, Devort and Buckley and so many others, that's what they're doing. They're just burning out the clock till they can cash out. And then once they cash out, well, then they don't have to care anymore at all. They're only saying this now because they're still here and they're still in charge, for whatever that's worth. And so they feel, oh, I got to say something. So here we'll make these future plans and these big promises, but, conversations are going to take some time, but I'm confident that we'll pull it together. That's what they all say. Oh yeah, we're going to streamline the X-Men and we're going to do all this and that and the other. But but none of this stuff really matters anyway. It's all just fiction. We can do whatever the hell we want. It doesn't matter. Who cares if it goes against every precept that the characters were based on? So what? It's all just fiction. They can't help but show their true face. But it's not just Marvel that's having problems in the current industry. Here we got another one here. IDW undergoing more changes as majority owner changes, its editor-in-chief leaves, and one of its publishers moves to a different position. 14 months after IDW's described reset, things are changing again. So there you go, another company. And we've, again, it's been well documented by myself, by guys like that Umbrella guy back in the day who would monitor like their stock price and stuff. IDW's been going down for a long time, and here it is, just more of the same. This is the state of the industry. Majority owner changes, editor-in-chief leaves, publisher moves to a different position. Again, all people just cashing out. I'm out of here. I'm done. Let's see. Yeah. Popverse confirmed that the company's editor-in-chief, Jamie S. Rich, has left the role after just 12 months for a job with another company, with longtime colleague, former DC cohort, and IDW's co-publisher Mark Doyle stepping in to fill in the position in his absence. Doyle isn't officially taking over IDW editor-in-chief role, however. According to a company spokesperson, IDW plans to make an announcement soon about their editorial leadership in the long term. So right there, I mean, what does that tell you? Oh yeah, I have no doubt that he is. Heather Antos is also one of the people who's helped run many other companies into the ground, like Valiant, and now she's at IDW, I believe, doing their Star Trek line and mucking all that up. So yeah, that was a great hire. No matter who has her, she's like the poison pen. She just, no matter what she touches, it dies. But look at this. the guy who's in charge isn't officially the editor-in-chief, and they're going to make an announcement about their editorial leadership in the long term because they have no plan right now. This is the state of things. You know, Jamie Rich, he got out. I'm out of here. You know, again, another guy, another big wig in there who just, you know, again, he's taking his golden parachute and leaving. This is the second major change in editorial leadership in the last few months. In April 2024, IDW laid off 5 individuals, including group editor Kristen Simon and the company's chief people officer, chief operating officer, Amber Herta. So after a bloodletting, now we got more shakeups. The company has elected to take these actions based upon organization, optimization, and needs, skills, set match, work product, performance, and reduction of cost, reads a statement from IDW regarding the 2024 layoffs. Basically saying, yeah, we're getting rid of these people because they serve no purpose and they're just eating up money. You know, I believe what's the term they use in business for that? Redundancies, I think is the name. That's what they're saying. You know, these people are redundant. We just got rid of them because they're redundant. Again, which shows you just how well structured these companies actually are. That same month, 16-year IDW veteran Scott Dunaber was the company's special projects editor, left the organization. He has since announced the formation of his own company, Act 4 Publishing, to be officially unveiled during the San Diego Comic-Con. So here you go, a guy who left the company and then started his own company because this company is dead. I mean, he saw the writing on the wall. Again, this is what you're seeing. You know, this is the state of the industry. Around the same time as the editorial changes were taking place, the IDW publisher's office changed. A chair was removed a chair. Popverse has learned that in April, IDW co-publisher Tara McCrillis was shifted away from that role to become president of publishing operations at the company. With that move, Mark Doyle became IDW's sole publisher, in addition to filing in for the aforementioned editor-in-chief duties until a replacement there is found. Also in April, IDW's head of accounting, Andrew DeBaker, was promoted to become the company's new chief financial officer. That role has been vacant for 14 months after his predecessor, Brooke Feinstein, was laid off. See, look at this. Everything we told them, everything we warned them about, it's all happening. It's all happening. The sales are down. The numbers are down. The money generated. The companies are going broke. They're laying people off. Bloodlettings out the wazoo. People shifting all around. Nobody's staying anywhere for any length of time. These are not the signs of a healthy industry. These are not the signs of an industry that's set up for some great stuff in the future. And this is why you're seeing so many people just sort of like try to pass the buck, just slide it on down. Just I don't want to. Just keep the status quo for a couple years till I retire. All of this happens after IDW's CEO Devati Jonas has taken over majority control of the company from his father Howard Jonas, who became majority owner in 2007. In March 2024, the young Jonas acquired IDW shares that represented 59.4% of the voting rights for the company, shares that were previously owned directly by Howard Jonas or placed by the elder Jonas in trusts for his children. Howard Jonas remains the company's chairman of the board. Following this, IDW has gone public with ambitions to raise $2.3 million by what's called private placement offering in order to obtain money in order to continue the company's licensing activities, to maintain reserves, and enable the company to act opportunistically and for working capital and general corporate purposes. So basically what they're saying is they're begging for money so that they can keep the licensing they have for things like The Last Ronin and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, about the only thing they have of any value left at the company. So that way they can actually still continue to produce something. Because we all know, you know, they used to have Transformers and G.I. Joe and, you know, a couple others. And those are all gone now. They've all left. And the only thing they have of any real value left at the company is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so now they're e-begging, basically. This is basically e-begging, like a form of e-begging to get more money so they can keep those licenses, so they can keep producing something that people might actually buy. It's a mess. This is a company in total disarray. According to an IDW spokesperson, however, these staff changes and new rounds of layoffs are unrelated to the company seeking to raise capital, saying this, the fundraising has been planned for about a year by IDW Media Holdings Board, which is long before any recent changes in the company's structure and titles. Yes, but what they aren't telling you is the reason they were planning that a year ago is because they probably foresaw this coming. They foresaw these layoffs and these switcheroos and all this other stuff that's happening. They saw this coming and they were trying to get ahead of it. And what happened is their fundraising didn't actually come in quickly enough to prevent that. Again, it's lies by omission. You know, oh, this was planned long before any recent changes. Yeah, but you knew those changes were coming, didn't you? You knew that the way things were going, the projections were telling you where it was headed, and you're like, oh, we got to change that quick. Let's raise some funds, but you weren't able to raise them quickly enough. I was very clear from the outset that what's most important is to have the right organizational structure to be able to execute on our strategy, DeVitas Jones told Posters in mid-2023 as news of the company's reset first broke. It really has to be as much as possible trying to act in the best interest of the company and the shareholders, which again is why you probably never want to take your company public, especially like if you're like a publisher like this. You don't want to do that. Yeah, they got My Little Pony, but what have you heard about anything from My Little Pony in a while? Anything? You see, that's what I'm saying. The only thing of value that IDW has anymore, as of right now, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that's mostly largely thanks to The Last Ronin. That's their one thing they have, and they can't afford to lose that license. If they lose that, they may as well shut the company down. And again, we told them this. We said this kind of thing could happen. We said that this is what you're going to end up with if you keep doing things the way you are, but they never listen. There's still more going on. Random House Publishing Group to acquire Boom Studios. Boom Studios is no longer their own studio now. Now they're owned by Random House. The Random House Publishing Group, a division of the world's largest trade publisher, Penguin Random House, has entered into agreement to acquire comic book, graphic novel, and licensed storytelling publisher studios, Boom Studios. The Boom Studios publishing program will now join Random House's world portfolio of imprints alongside Del Rey, Inklore, and RH World's licensing program. The company will retain its editorial and publishing independence, reporting to Random House World's president, Scott Shannon, Keith Clayton, VP Publisher, Random House Worlds, and Bill Takes, EVP of Business Strategies, Random House Publishing Group. Will work alongside Shannon and Boom Studios team to help manage and integrate the new imprint. So basically, they've just been swallowed up. Boom Studios has been swallowed up by somebody else. So there's another one bites the dust. There are no plans to relocate Boom Studios from its LA offices, and the company will continue to distribute through both Diamond Comics distributors and Simon & Schuster. Terms of the deal were not disclosed. The transaction is expected to close this summer. Stated Boom Studios founder and chairman Ross Ritchie, it's every entrepreneur's dream to launch a company, build it, and then sell it to the best. I'm excited to hand the reins of Boom over to the best and largest publisher in the world. Their focus on readers and retailer partnerships will build upon our work and help our creators achieve even more personal success. Personally, it's time for me to take some much-needed time off with my family and explore what's next. There you are, folks, right there. Ross Ritchie, add him to the list. You got Dan Buckley, Tom Brevoort, Jamie Rich, and now Ross Ritchie. Here's another one. Cashing out. He doesn't want to deal with this anymore. He's done. They've screwed everything up. The companies are too hard to manage. They've let all these activists in who've destroyed the characters, destroyed the lore, driven away the readership. And rather than doing the hard work to bring all that back, just let me sell it off and get out of here. I'm selling off the company. I'm going to take my golden parachute and run. That's why I titled this stream, Take the Money and Run, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're either running out the clock like Buckley, hoping to get to retirement before everything collapses, or they're selling out like Ross Ritchie here and just say, here, take it and take my money and run. This is what is happening. This is what is happening. Shannon called Boom Studios' acquisition a major step in Penguin Random Publishing House's expansion of support to the direct comics market and a key part of our commitment to being the best publisher for creators across all categories, adding, we're excited to continue that tradition with Boom as part of Random House Publishing Group. Founded in 2005, Boom Studios publishes under 4 distinct lines: Boom Studios, Boom Box, Kaboom, and Archaea. Archaea, however it's pronounced. To date, the company has made a name for itself as producing the best-selling, award-winning original works, including Keanu Reeves' Berserker, Someone is Killing the Children, and Lumberjanes, while also breaking new ground with established licenses such as Power Rangers, Dune, The Expanse, Garfield, Firefly, Labyrinth, and Dark Crystal. And again, outside of, Power Rangers, maybe Dune, and maybe Garfield, or any of those really any great shakes to anybody? Of course not. Boom Studios has also produced a number of films and television series, including Two Guns, The Empty Man, Just Beyond, and Mech Cadets. I haven't heard of a single one of those. Have you? Currently, the company is in production on Butterfly, a live-action series for Prime Video starring whoever, who cares? So there you are. They don't have much. This is a company that's again has struggled for years. Founded in 2005 during the good times, and then the good times quickly came to an end, and now look at them now. They're championing things that no one's ever heard of. Two Guns, The Empty Man. Who's heard of these things? No, I've never heard of those. That's how well they are at getting out the word on their products. Again, see, this is what I'm saying. This has been a long time in coming. All this stuff you're seeing, all this restructuring, the firings, the shuffling of everybody, the people leaving, it's all been a long time in coming. But again, it's not the only one. And so, okay, Marvel, yeah, and here's IDW and Boom, and now here's DC. Jim Lee commission prices draw controversy. And this is from Comic Book Club News. So let's get into this. Here's the latest tempest in a teapot to hit the comic book internet. Jim Lee's commission prices. The comic book legend reportedly does a limited number of convention commissions per year, with prices starting at $1,000 for a simple headshot, ranging all the way up to $35,000 for multiple characters on a background that are not based on Lee's original art. While the commission rates were posted in April by his agent, they just went viral over the weekend when fans, and I use that term loosely, so you got, again, even in the media, gotta attack the readers, railed against the charges, calling it beyond insulting and ridiculous, among other less reputable comments. Well, I'm of two minds of the whole thing. Just on a side note here, if Jim Lee can command $35,000 for a commission, well, then he should get it if there are people willing to pay it. If his stature is such and his skills are such that he can command that money, I'm a total capitalist, and you should be able to do that. That's fine. Of course, I do question the timing of why he's doing it. I mean, we're certainly not in the best economic times that we've ever seen. So to do it now, when a lot of people are hurting, does smack a little bit of, as the one person said, beyond insulting. I can understand why people would feel that way. I certainly wouldn't pay $35,000 for a commission from Jim Lee. I don't think he's worth that much. But, again, if as long as you got people out there who are, and you can command it, then you can, and then you should get it. But, again, why now? Why is he doing it now? Well, because, if you guys noticed, DC is doing horribly. And he's the one in charge. He's the chief creative officer at DC Comics. This is the man in charge of what's being produced. And what are they producing? Garbage. Nobody wants to buy. Yeah, I believe you, Blackjack. I believe you. Yes. And I'm sure if you spent the money, you'd probably be saying that was $1 too much to spend on it. But yeah, here's Jim Lee out here, asking for $35,000 commissions. Why? Why would you do that when you're the head chief creative officer at DC Comics? Shouldn't you be focused on doing that job and making DC Comics sell? But no, he doesn't want to do that because that's too much work. Instead, let me just use my prestige as being our comic artist legend and cash out and get people to drop $35K on me drawing, Wolverine and Psylocke, with some rubble at their feet. I mean, and again, I don't fault them. If you can make that kind of money from your work, you should be able to do it. That's capitalism. I'm totally for that. But the timing and the fact that you're in charge at DC Comics and you're not focused on making DC Comics better is a very telling thing. Again, this is Jim Lee's way of cashing out. He's taking the money from DC and producing Drek. And so if the company goes down, well, it doesn't matter. I got my commissions over here for $35,000 a pop. I mean, again, another one who is completely checked out and is not in the least bit concerned with the state of the industry, the state of the direct market, what's happening, and all of that. They just don't care. Meanwhile, most comic book creators came to Jim Lee's defense. Kevin Maguire noted that if he charged less, someone would sell it for more later. Well, that happens again. Speaking as someone who was once a comic art rep, let me tell you, if I had $1 for every time we sold something at a fair price from one of my artists, and then somebody went and took and sold it for more, yeah, that happens. That's going to happen regardless. That doesn't mean you have to astroturf people and charge them out the asshole during hard times. So at least the artist is getting the money. Yeah, see again, at least the artist get so again, yeah, as long as I'm getting mine. See again, this is the state of the industry. Everybody's looking out for their own ass, and they don't give a shit about the industry itself, the characters, the reader base, the retailers. None of those people matter to them. It's all just covering their own ass. I want to make sure I get mine. Jimmy Palmiotti added, Jim Lee can charge anything he likes for commission, just like you don't have to get one if you don't want to. Really that simple. Yeah, I agree. It is that simple. But again, the timing of why he's doing it and when. Why? Why now? Why now when he's in charge of DC Comics? Isn't he getting a paycheck from that? Why is he doing this now? Because he knows DC Comics is in trouble. He knows that things are not going to last like this much longer. And so he's hedging his bets to cash out on his cachet of his name and his art style so that he can make some money before the end. Just like Buckley is holding out until he retires. Just like Brevoort is holding out till he retires. Just like you saw Ross Ritchie cash out and sell off his company and say, oh, I need time with my family, because he doesn't want to deal with this stuff anymore. All these assholes have fucked everything up beyond recognition in this industry. The whole entire direct market has been slaughtered by these people and others. They're not the only ones. There's plenty of others to share the blame, believe me. But these are the people at the top, and they've either been directly involved in it happening or have allowed it to happen under their watch because they didn't care. Just they didn't care about the canon and the continuity. Just they didn't care about the readers. Just they didn't care about the retailers. They didn't care about any of it. And now that it's all starting to fall apart, companies are closing and downsizing and getting rid of redundancies like IDW and others, being bought out by other people. All this stuff is happening, and they're just saying, I just want to hold out until I retire. I'm Dan Buckley. I'm in my 60s. I'm getting close to retirement age. I just got to hold out another 2 years, and then I can retire with my golden parachute. That's what they're doing. This is who these people are. And this is what they're doing. They have no interest in saving this industry, none whatsoever. Because as you can see here, direct market comic and graphic novel sales mixed in the spring of 2024. Marvel Indies doing well, DC down. Let's get into some of this, shall we? Sales results in the comic stores for spring of 2024 were mixed based on sales and information and our interviews with retailers in different areas of the country. Sales on Marvel Comics and independent publishers, especially Image Comics, were up, but DC Comics sales were down behind a reduction in title count. So they're going to try to hide this as, oh, well, they're producing less titles and that's why they're down. No, they're down because the stuff doesn't sell. The quarter one market share numbers from the 125 plus stores using Comics Hub tell the story. The market share spread between Marvel and DC reached 17.3 shares points, up over 6 points from quarter one 2023. Again, 2023, which was like the worst year they have on record. So they're up a tiny bit from last year's horrible numbers. Keep that in mind. See, again, this is what they don't tell you when they give you the numbers like this. Marvel held nearly 40% of direct market with a share of 38.9 share, which is actually horrible. I remember days when Marvel was like 60%. They held 60% of share, while DC had only 21.6% of share. Image share was up to 12.4% behind the Energon Universe titles. So again, once again, the Transformers and G.I. Joe are uplifting the Image guys. The Spawn 350 issue and the first Ghost Machine titles. The spread between Marvel and DC increased even more in the second quarter. Bob Schaefer, let's see, Bob Schaefer of Dragon's Lair in San Antonio, the store with the top comic volume in the chain, laid out some of his bestsellers. Ultimate Spider-Man and Transformers are still two of our best-selling books because people just really like the books. Oh, imagine that. You create good works that people want to enjoy, that people say that they want to see this, and you give it to them, and oh, wow, imagine that. They buy it. Whoever could have thought? I thought it was supposed to be they're supposed to give you what you don't realize you want. You don't want classic characters done the way they're supposed to be done. No, what you want is you want all this diversity and equity and inclusion and shoved down your throat into characters. That's what you really want. That's what you need. Giving you what you want? No, that's not what they do. Imagine giving people what they want actually makes something sell. Oh my God. Somebody stop the presses. Call up the New York Times. Tell them they got to change their headline. Giving people what they want makes it sell. We're still selling large quantities of that Batman and X-Men Wolverine Spawn, even with the line expansion that McFarlane has done, has been very steady because he keeps the price point down to $2.99. So there you are. Once again, Buckley was saying, well, we'll keep it at $3.99, except for these exceptions, which we're doing all the time. Ghost Machine has a pretty good start for us. It settled down as the second issues have been coming out, but for an indie thing, it's still selling good numbers. Okay, forget all the rest of this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, DC's decline is causing broad concern. DC cut their lines pretty substantially and leaned in more to variant covers that have upped-priced cover prices. Brian Hibbs of Comic Experience in San Francisco noted that appears to be the model now. It doesn't seem like it's working. See, so now you see why is Jim Lee doing $35,000 commissions? This is why. This is why. It's easier to sit there drawing Wolverine and Psylocke than it is to have to actually fix what's going on wrong at DC. John Robinson of 13-store, mostly Midwest comic store chain in Graham Crackers Comics made a broader point to which every direct market retailer would agree. When we don't have the big two firing on all cylinders, we all hurt. And unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with currently. If DC can get back on track, we will be in a much better place. So there you go. The industry leaders are not leading. The industry leaders are failing. And rather than try to address the problems, the actual problems, they're just trying to run out the clock until they can cash out. Or, like I said, in the case of like Ross Ritchie, they've already sold out. Or in the case of Jim Lee, they're sidelining to doing something else to make money so that when this all falls apart, they still have theirs. This is what the leadership of the comics mainstream is doing. When everything is falling apart, rather than buckling down and saying, you know what, we need to streamline this, we need to stop doing the stupid stuff we've been doing for the last 10, 12, 15 years, and we need to get back to producing the kind of work that people want to actually read, and we need to get back to basics and make the characters what they are and what they're supposed to be, and develop those things. And if we have it on the movies that way, we better have it in the comics that way. Instead of doing any of that stuff, no, let's just do these other things. Let's promise $3.99 price points that we won't stick to because we'll make all these exceptions. Let's say we're going to streamline the titles with characters who have complex origins and not have any of them. Well, except for these couple ones that fit our agenda. Let's go ahead and say, well, we're going to have about 15 years sliding time rule for our timeline. But, it doesn't really matter on here because, fuck it. Who cares about continuity? It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. It's unimportant. This is what they're doing. This is how you know they don't care. All these years, and now finally the numbers are coming back to bite them. Finally. After they've lied and smokescreened and gaslit all of us, dragging in manga numbers, dragging in crowdfunding numbers, all of it to pump up their numbers and say, see, comics are booming. Comics are doing better than ever. 2.2 billion. Come on, we're all doing great. When we knew all along in the mainstream it was not that. We knew all along. And now that they can't hide behind that shield anymore, now you see what's happening. Now they're looking for a way out. Let me save myself. Let me get some money in my pocket. And if that fucks over everybody else, I don't care, just as long as I get mine. The people who already buy comics are still buying comics, but they're coming in less and less often, Hibbs observed. For the most part, they're only buying what's already in their box and then moving on immediately, which is not good for the state of comics. Oh, imagine that. People coming into buying things that they said, well, I'm going to buy these specific books, and then buying nothing else. No more checking the wall to see what's new. No more flipping through back issues. No more asking about, hey, what's something else that's cool that everyone's talking about? None of that. Robinson describes similar trends at graham cracker stores. Store subscriber levels are holding steady, which is miraculous considering the number of long-time subscriber, old-time readers that we're losing due to their frustration with the publishing schedules, prices, variant covers, behavior. Holy fucking shit! Holy shit! So there you go. What did I just get done saying? They've driven people away in huge numbers, and they've got nothing left. They're doing the same stupid speculators bullshit they did in the 90s that caused a speculation bubble to burst and then almost destroyed the industry back in like the late 90s. They've learned nothing. Nothing. It's just keep doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result. And what is the name for that? We all know what that is, don't we? Well, obviously these assholes don't. Because here it is here, North American comics and graphic novels market down 7% in 2023. And there it is. See, here it was. The 2 billion, oh, 2 billion, we're doing better than ever. And now it's down. Now it's down. And why is it down? Because manga is down. All this stuff you see right here, the last few years, all those increases for the last few years, that was all because they were, since 2019 at least, dragging in manga, dragging in young adult, dragging in crowdfunding. And now because manga, which was the juggernaut, especially the last few years, is starting to weaken, is starting to slow down, their numbers are going down. Of course, that's not what they're going to tell you. Because, see, this was always the shield. Again, I've shown you this, guys, this over the years when they've shown these graphs. You've seen this graph many, many, many times. This is what they do. This was their shield to hide behind. Oh, comics are doing great. They're booming. Except, no, they're not. And now that the juggernaut that was being their shield to hide behind isn't as strong as it was, now you're starting to see the truth. Comics and graphic novel sales were down around 7% in 2023, according to a new estimate from ICV2. Total comics and graphic novel sales to consumers in the U.S. and Canada were around 1.87 billion, down 7% from 2.1 billion, 2.01 billion in 2022. And for those who are thinking that comics business is in trouble, take a look at comparisons to 2019 before the pandemic. See, again, this is their copium. Oh, everything's up. It's still 70% over 2019. Yes, because of manga. Because you started dragging in manga sales to pump up the numbers. That's when you started doing that. See, again, they're trying so hard to hide the truth, but you can't hide it anymore. I mean, you just saw all the headlines I just showed you of how indifferent these people are to what's actually happening to the direct market. They don't care. They're checked out. Trends in sales by format and channel did not vary much in 2023. By format, graphic novels down 7% and periodicals down 6%, preserving their relative shares. By channel, comic stores and the comic book channel, which includes online retailers like Amazon, declined by similar amounts, 8% for comic stores, 7% for the book channel. Comics on Kickstarter had a big year, up over 30% in dollars raised from backers in North America, with Good Omens graphic novel by Colleen Doran, which raised 2.4 million pounds worldwide, the biggest project. So there you are. See, again, they're looking to others to try to hide the truth. You know, sales for comic shops down 8%. Graphic novels down 7%. Periodicals down 6%. Do you notice a trend? This is what they don't want you to see. This is what they don't want you to hear. This is what these people are trying to hide, not just from you, but from themselves. And this is why, as you saw, all those guys at the top, so indifferent to everything, just trying to keep the status quo until they cash out. That's it. This is we're reaching the denouement, as they say in literature. We're reaching the denouement of the story here for the comic book industry, the mainstream direct market comic book industry. We're reaching the denouement now. Because again, here's the graphs. A little closer for you. You can see it slipped. Here, it slipped from the previous years. This is what's happening. Everything is going down. People are not buying the stuff. They don't want the garbage they're putting out. And rather than try to address these problems, they're just going to do the stupid speculator stuff they've done before and try to mask the numbers as best they can. This is what they're doing. Rather than addressing the problems, they're trying to hide the problems until they no longer have to deal with them, until they're someone else's problem. This is the leadership of the mainstream, folks. This is who the people are that are supposedly in charge, the adults in charge. Jim Lee looking to make commission money because he doesn't want to have to work and fix DC Comics. Dan Buckley trying to keep things status quo until he retires in a few years. You know, Ross Ritchie selling out Boom Studios for his time with his family because he's tired of dealing with all this stuff, because he doesn't have the wherewithal to do the hard work that's necessary to try to save the direct market. That's what it all boils down to. This is the truth. This is what they don't want you to know. This is what they have lied to you about for years. Comics are great. Comics are booming. Comics are doing awesome. And they're not. And again, why are they worried about it now all of a sudden? Well, it might be things like this, you know. Dow's 100-point fall led by losses in Nike and Walt Disney stocks. So you see, there you go. The big daddy corporations are losing money. DC's big company, DC Warner or Discovery Warner. They're not making any money. They're hurting. They got bought out from off of AT&T, who were hurting, who had bought them out before that. And you got Marvel now, who's owned by Disney, and Disney, again, their stocks are way down. I think like the current close, I think is under $90, is like $88 and some odd cents is the average share for a Disney stock right now. Not historic low, but getting pretty close. You know, way down from their highs of a few years ago. See, even the sugar daddies that the industry has been relying on to keep them afloat, they're starting to run out of money because they've burned through so much with shitty TV shows on streaming and shitty movies and, you know, all this genuflecting and woke ideology being inserted into everything they produce and turning away the fan bases of those things. The very things that have been happening in the comic industry have been happening across the board in all venues of entertainment. And now the big corporations who own most of it, they're losing money. And so what do you think happens next? What comes next after this? Well, that's when the big boys start looking what we can cut. We got to find a way of cutting the costs. We're spending too much money and we're not bringing enough money in. And what do you think would be one of the first things to go at Disney? Marvel Publications? What's the first thing going to go at Discovery Warner? DC Publication? I mean, it's just a matter of time now. And again, this is why you have guys like Dan Buckley and Ross Ritchie and Jim Lee and all the rest just marking time, just praying that they can keep things solid enough, status quo enough until it's time to retire, and then we can take our golden parachute and leave. And now it's someone else's problem. We don't have to care. Not that they ever cared, but for right now, the problem is on their shoulders, and they don't like that. This is where we are. And it was all easily predictable because it's already happening. Here's one from Rainbow Rowell, a little tweet I found where she goes, "Hey, She-Hulk readers, it is with great sadness that I tell you issue 10 is the end of our run. 10 issues for She-Hulk, a She-Hulk series that I didn't even know was out, to tell you the truth. I didn't even know there was a She-Hulk book right now. And it lasted a whopping 10 issues. I mean, the original She-Hulk series back in the 70s and early 80s, the Savage She-Hulk, went 25. I mean, that's like a Wagnerian epic compared to this in terms of issue numbers. And yet, this book couldn't last that long. The previous Sensational She-Hulk, the one that I remember from the 80s with John Byrne, that went 60 issues. Oh my God, that's like forever and a day compared to this. But this is what's happening. No one is buying this garbage. Mixing the She-Hulk with, Bridget Jones's Diary didn't work. Gee, imagine that. Turning a boy brand into a girl's brand didn't make it sell so well to boys or to girls. I can't imagine why. And on top of that, they're still doing plenty of other stupid things in the industry, like this right here. This was the listing for some of the Eisner Awards, which were just handed out at the San Diego Comic-Con. Well, what do you see here? In the Best Graphic Novel Album New, Parasocial by Alex de Campi. Now, again, we all know who Alex de Campi is and what she's known for. And again, right underneath in the reprint is Hip Hop Family Tree, the Omnibus by Ed Piskor. Oh, so the guy she is responsible for murdering, she's in the same awards ceremony as him, who, of course, he is posthumously, of course. I mean, what is wrong with this industry? This woman drove the man to kill himself, and they're honoring her with an Eisner nomination. Now, I'll tell you this. I did check into it. I found out who the winners were, and it was actually Mariko Tamaki here who won in the Best Graphic Novel Album New, not Alex de Campi. So at the very least, Piskor got his wish in his final note that she remains a failure forever, and she is. But that she was even nominated for an award after what she has done, and it's not even that. But look at this here. Magic and Monsters Collide in Reversal, coming soon from Dark Horse Books. The graphic novel follows a young Trey Grant as she takes on a magic-filled journey of monstrous proportions. Reversal is a contemporary fantasy action adventure written by Eisner-nominated writer Alex de Campi. So Dark Horse Comics is willing to work with a murderess. I mean, you and I, they've called us Nazis for years. They'll never want to work with us. I mean, if I had the greatest idea for a story, I got to imagine Dark Horse would look at me and go, "Oh, but you're a straight white male, and you think that meritocracy is more important than diversity. Oh, well, we can't have you. You're a Nazi. We're not going to work with Nazis." But yet you'll work with murderesses like Alex de Campi. This is the industry. And again, she's not a one-off. Because here it is, and it shows you these awards are kind of a joke and pointless for book sales. But if you want to do something really funny, make Comics Hate Incels big mad, you could nominate Parasocial and Bad Karma as Best Graphic Novel and Scrapper as Best Miniseries. So here it is. She doesn't even care about these awards. She thinks they're stupid and worthless. But just to stick at the people she hates, she wants you to nominate and vote for her. This is the mentality of the people who are in the industry today. This is what we're dealing with. This is who they are. And again, she's not the only one. Here, of course, King Baby Mark Waid. If you're just tuning in, Some fucking idiot with shitty eyesight just clinched the election for Trump. Fuck! Pray that the shooter was wearing a RFK Jr. t-shirt. This, of course, having to do with the recent assassination attempt of former President Trump. And, you know, here it is. I mean, you know, not even hiding the fact is hatred. You know, I mean, just putting it out there. Mark Wade. But when he called out on it, what happens? Oh, well, this happens. Because right-wing lunatics and comic incels have made my campaign out of sickly twisting my condolences about yesterday's tragedy into claims I cheer political violence. I have deleted my posts. I will not give them any fuel to spread their disgusting lies. Whoa. Sickly twisting my condolences. Let's just go back for a second. If you're just tuning in, some fucking idiot with shitty eyesight just clinched the election for Trump. Fuck! Pray that the shooter was wearing an RFK Jr. t-shirt. I'm sorry. Where's the condolences here? I didn't see any condolences for Trump who got shot. I don't see any condolences for the people in the stands who got hit and the one who died. I don't see any of those condolences. The only thing I can see a possible condolence, some fucking idiot with shitty eyesight, like what, lamenting that the shooter didn't have better eyesight? That's what you're, you know, you're condoling. Oh, sorry you didn't have better eyesight, shooter. I mean, that's the only thing I can see here as a condolence in any of this. And then wishing that he had an RFK shirt. Why? So that way he can't say that they were a Democrat. You know, blame the RFK people. Don't blame the Democrats. Which, of course, as we're finding out, the guy was one. So, of course he was. But where's the condolences? Except for the condolences for the shooter's eyesight, which would be to cheer on political violence. Because you're unless the condolences what, for yourself? Condolence that Trump's going to win the election because of that guy? Is that the condolence? Condolence for leftist retards? I mean, you know, you can't. And he deleted his post. He's like, no, you deleted your post because it exposed what the truth was about you. That you do cheer political violence against people you don't agree with. But again, we've known this. Just remember, back in December, this was the same guy saying he'd rather the industry burn to the ground than work with people he doesn't agree with politically. You know, this is who they are. And what does he get for all that? For espousing such degeneracy? Oh, well, he gets this. DC Comics announced a new book, Batman and Robin Year One, by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. So he gets rewarded doing a new Batman book. And he's going to be involved in that, what is it, the lead up to that DC Absolute storyline. The lead into that. He's working on that. Plus, I think he has something he's working in for the All In campaign that they're doing at DC now. The new reboot, the new rebirth is now called All In. As if they weren't all in before. And then what the hell were you doing, DC? But this is the people. And again, these two are not outliers. There's no DeCampi and Wade are not outliers. There's many of them just like this. Maybe those people aren't quite as stupid as Wade and DeCampi to spew their toxic bile so publicly all the time. But believe me, they are hardly the only ones who think the kind of things that you saw here. So many of these SJWs are known by the psycho shit they have done to other people than by the books they have worked on. Easy to see why they exactly. And again, and it brings it all back to the beginning here. Why do you think all the big guys at the top are now just looking to cash out? These activist types like this have destroyed the industry. Their books don't sell. People won't buy them. Simply because their names are on them, they won't buy them. And so what do? Well, we got let me just keep the status quo until I retire. Let me do some $35,000 commission so I can cash in on my name before the industry implodes. I mean, this is what they're doing. You know, it really does. It all just boils down to this. This is the mentality of those at the top in the comic book industry right now. This exemplifies exactly what they are and what they think. And they don't care. They don't care who knows. They don't care about anything except, you know, lining their pockets before the end. I mean, they truly are a case of like the classic story of like the man who pushes everyone else in front of him, hoping the alligator eats him last. That's what they are. That's what Dan Buckley is. That's what Jim Lee is. That's what Ross Ritchie is. That's what Jamie Rich is. That's what Tom Brevoort is. They're pushing everyone else in front, letting the alligator eat them, hoping they takes them before it goes into them, and then hopefully they'll get their golden parachute to jump out and save themselves with. And this is where we are. And I just, for any of you out there, who thought that, is there a chance we can save this hobby? Is there a chance we can save the mainstream comic book? I don't think there is a way to save it now. I truly don't. I truly, truly don't. And that saddens me to have to say that. And ever since I was younger, almost since when I first started reading comics, almost, but like probably like a couple years after I got into comics, I had a dream. I wanted to own my own comic book shop. I wanted to be like the Cheers of comic book shops, a place where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. And that dream can never happen now. And it's because of the people you've seen here and many others like them. Again, like these people are not the exhaustive list that you've seen here today. But because of them, that dream is dead. They killed that dream, just like Alistair Campy killed Ed Piskor. And, I used to want to hope maybe we could try to find a way to salvage the mainstream industry. But now I'm at a point where I'm just thinking it just needs to die. We need to just let it die. Because, what's left to save? They've destroyed the characters. They've destroyed their legacies. They've destroyed the companies. And now they're just all looking to cash out before the final collapse. So what's to save? And so I that's why I'm focusing more and more on, the crowdfunding and, stuff like that, because I just figure that's the future. It's not worth investing in these publishers today because none of them give a damn about anything. They don't care about the company. They don't care about the readers. They don't care about the creations. They don't care about business. Outside of, again, collecting their own check until, they can retire. And, it's just, there's nothing left here. It's a husk. It's the crypt keeper. That's what the industry is. The industry is walking around like the crypt keeper, and maybe it's just time to let it die. As sad as that is to say. There you go. I just, not a fun one, but I mean, it's what it is, and I don't see this getting any better. There is nobody in charge who is looking to fix the issues in the mainstream. They're just looking to mark time until they can cash out. And I don't know. It's funny to me that that's where we are. But one last thing I wanted to share with you guys is probably the reason why it's come to this. I found this story, and it pretty much encapsulates what I think is the reason ultimately why we've arrived at this point. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. You can see that the story here: diversity was supposed to make us rich. Not so much. When management consulting firm McKinsey declared in 2015 that it had found a link between profits and executive racial and gender diversity, it was a breakthrough. The research was used by investors, lobbyists, and regulators to push for more women and minority groups on boards and to justify investing in companies that appointed them. Unfortunately, the research doesn't show what everyone thought it showed. There are obvious benefits of diverse corporate leadership for society, both in providing role models and in showing a commitment to promoting the best people, irrespective of skin color or gender. But doing so because it is the right thing is not the same as doing it because it makes more money. Since 2015, The approach has been tested in the fire of the marketplace and failed. Academics have tried to repeat McKinsey's findings and failed, concluding that there is no link between profitability and executive diversity. And the methodology of McKinsey's early studies, which helped create the widespread belief that diversity is good for profits, is being questioned. McKinsey has tried to remedy one of the most obvious flaws. It originally linked profits over several years with diversity at the end of the period, meaning the most it could prove is that profitability led to more diversity, not the other way around. In its latest study, it said it had now run tests using diversity at the start of the period and still found a correlation. In light of a recent study criticizing our methodologies, we have reviewed our research and continue to stand by its findings that diverse leadership teams are associated with higher likelihood of financial outperformance, McKinsey said. We have also been clear and consistent that our research identifies correlation, not causation, and that those two things are not the same. The trouble is that McKinsey behaves as though the studies do show causation, constantly talking of the corporate benefits of diversity. Even the correlation is in doubt. Academics can't replicate McKinsey's study precisely because it keeps secret the names of the companies it used. But a paper published this year finds that McKinsey's methodology doesn't show benefits from diversity for the S&P 500 companies for a range of profitability metrics. It isn't that it's a lack of diversity is good for profits either. It's just there's no link. This shouldn't come as a surprise if companies could boost their profits as easily as McKinsey suggested. The most diverse firms have had a 39% point higher chance of higher than average profit margins than the least diverse. Then surely companies would have rushed to promote more women and more minority racial groups. It seemed implausible because the companies would have jumped on it and the advantages would have been competed away, said John Hand, an accounting professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. With Jermaine Green of Texas A&M University, he found no results that were statistically significant when repeating McKinsey's study for the S&P 500. McKinsey keeps secret the names of the companies in its study, which in 2015 included 186 from the US and Canada, so it can't be independently verified. This matters because McKinsey's study was hugely influential. McKinsey figures first in BlackRock's reference for supporting a board diversity target of 30% in its proxy voting guidelines. It featured prominently among studies used by the Securities and Exchange Commissioner in 2020 to explain why she supported corporate disclosure of diversity metrics. NASDAQ cited as evidence when the exchange applied to the SEC for a rule requiring companies it lists to have minimum diversity on boards or explain why it doesn't. It has been cited by dozens of campaign groups pushing for rules to support consideration of social issues by pension funds and others too. McKinsey's influence wasn't only on policy, which ought anyway to consider moral and societal issues as well as purely financial ones. BlackRock and Refinitiv, now part of London Stock Exchange Group, cited the study as evidence of financial benefit from diversity when they created an ETF that tracked a diversity index. The index has lagged badly behind since its 2018 launch, returning about 55% against more than 70% of the global index without diverse conditions. This seems to be less about diversity than the choice of how to invest in it. The ETF is equally weighed, which has it held back as a giant stock beat the rest of the market. Because of the diversity requirements, it held a lot more banks and insurers and less technology than the whole market as a whole. A similar fund was created by State Street Global. All right, they're talking about all these different funds they created. A moment's thought would suggest this was far too high a figure to be explained by the presence of a handful of women, and subsequent deep underperformance shows skepticism was the right response. Since its 2016 launch, the fund's returns has lagged more than 70% percentage points behind that of the top 1,000 companies from which it selected before switching to MSCI gauge 2 years ago. It has shrunk from a peak of $400 million to $245 million. McKinsey said in its original paper, it stands to reason that more diverse companies are better and able to win top talent and improve their customer orientation, employee satisfaction, and decision making by leading a virtuous cycle of increasing returns. Common sense also says it's easier to avoid potential catastrophic groupthink if people have a range of different experiences. Common sense also insists that it's important to build team spirit and trust when people with a shared background have a head start. University of Chicago law professor Lisa Bernstein showed this for New York's Jewish diamond dealers who would score 0 for diversity but gained financially by the trust from their common group heritage. Similar studies have shown the same for other small ethnic business groups. Bernstein thinks that such trust can be built from networks of social connections, but it comes built in for some backgrounds. Skin color and sex don't perfectly capture diversity of thought anyway. A privately educated Black Harvard Business School graduate would likely probably think much the same as a way about business as a white one. A top female New York lawyer may have the similar experience of life, or lack of it, as a male one. McKinsey's diversity of thought suggestions don't extend to, for example, appropriating worker representation to the board, even though their ideas might well be quite different to those of senior management. Finally, correlation is not causation. McKinsey repeatedly says in its study that it only found a correlation. The Aztecs mistook correlation for causation with tragic results, cutting out the hearts of a victim to rekindle fire every 52 years in order to ensure the world's survival. There was a strong correlation between the human sacrifice and the world not ending, but no causation. Investors don't risk having vital organs removed, but they should pay more attention to the studies they rely on. And so there you go. Now you're saying, what does all this really mean? Well, it shows you that the whole thing of equity, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, is a lie. Based off of a study that cannot be replicated because the figures and information are secret to a specific company, in this case McKinsey, and that all they found was a correlation between the two, not a causation. Which could mean that by having diverse mindsets made something profitable, and then you were to bring in more people in who then maybe were more female, more ethnically diverse, more skin racially diverse. But it was the profitability that came first from the like minds of the same group, as they noted here about the, common sense also insists it's important to build team spirit and trust where people with a shared background have a head start. And there you are. So people who have the same type of leanings, who aren't exactly the same people, but they have diversity of thought, but yet they have similarity of purpose. They all want the same thing. They're all thinking about the same thing in the same way. They may not think about exactly with every single breath, everything is the same, but they have a common cause. And that is because they share a background. They share a history. This is the big lie about all of that diversity nonsense. And again, this is also what we saw with the comics when they did, it was a 2014 poll, and it found that about 50% of the people who responded to the poll were female. And I'm like, oh, well, that means so many women read comics. And well, no, it doesn't mean that. It just means that 50% of the respondents to your poll were female. That's correlation. That's not causation. But again, just like with the McKinsey thing here, that's what they assumed. Oh, well, it's got to be that there's 50% women. So we need to tailor the books to appeal more to women. And what do we end up with? Books that don't sell. Driving away a reader base for one that doesn't show up. All because you based it off faulty data It suggested a correlation, but not a causation. This is where we are. And now, after all this time, not just in comics, but pretty much the business world at large, diversity was supposed to make us rich. Not so much. And that pretty much says it all. In our industry, the comic book industry, banked on the same. We got to have diverse voices. We got to, have gay people writing gay characters and black people writing black characters and females writing female characters. We got to change up characters and make them different. And get rid of these straight white males and put in more diverse characters that we can have more diverse people writing, because that's going to make us all rich. That's going to make the books better and more profitable, and everyone's going to win. And you just saw in this last 90 minutes, I've shown you how untrue that has turned out to be. You've got tons of companies, reorganizing and resetting, as Buckley put it, wanting to reset the entire stratosphere of the entire comic direct market. You've got companies going under like IDW. You have companies buying out other companies like Boom Studio. And then you have people working in these companies who are activists who, wish death on a former president or push somebody into suicide and get rewarded for it. This is where we are. This is the industry today. And I don't see a way back from this. Like I said, I used to have some hope in me that maybe the right people in certain positions might be able to change things. You get people who cared about the work, cared about the characters, cared about, the reader base. You might be able to save it. I don't think that anymore. And this was the lie. This was the false bill of goods we were sold. Diversity was supposed to make us rich, and yet it didn't. It's made us all poor. There you go. So there it is, folks. After all these years, a decade or more, and now the truth is finally coming out. And everything we've said all along has turned out to be true. And now the people in charge, rather than admit they were wrong, admit they made mistakes, and trying to correct them and do the very hard work of having to bring it all back, they're just looking to cash out. Let me cash out and get the hell out of here. Just keep it together a couple more years till I can cash out and get out and retire. And then I don't have to care anymore. Again, not that they ever really cared, but, it's not going to be their problem. So, it might just be time to let the mainstream die. Just let it die. But hopefully from that, something good will come, like a phoenix from the ashes, as they say. So that's where we are. And like I said, I don't see anybody in charge who wants to try to change it. And I don't think they're going to. So what we do is we have to change. And we got to stop supporting them and just let it die, and maybe try to support something better. Like I said, that's why I do all the crowdfunding stuff that I do now. That's my reason for doing that. Is to try to find a better way, a better solution, because these people aren't going to give it. Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me today. Like I said, I wanted to get this one out. Hope you got some interesting stuff to think about out of this. I hope maybe I made some good points to you and showed you some things that maybe even you weren't aware of. I like to try to make these at least somewhat educational, so maybe you can learn some things, and hopefully that's been accomplished here. But I want to thank you all for joining me today. As for what's coming up, well, I do know I have a crowdfunded coolness unboxing that we'll probably be doing in the next couple of days. I have a couple of my crowdfunded books are supposedly coming in, so I might have at least one of those for you before the end of the month. Also, I might have another what's in the box for you before the end of the month as well. And those have been doing pretty well. I've liked doing those for you guys. I always like showing you guys some cool stuff. And I don't know, maybe if I'm up for it, if I can really squeeze it in, I'll try to get in one more Why It's Great. I hope you guys saw the last one I just did on the Superman #4 from 1986 from the Byrne reboot. I hope you guys can check that out. Please do. I got links down there below to all this stuff, so you can check out the playlists and see all the cool stuff I've been doing around here of late. Doing a lot more material than I've ever done before, and hopefully you guys can enjoy some of that. And I want to thank you all for joining me today, and to say, I'll be back soon with some more stuff. I can assure you. And until next time, take care.